Hi everybody, and welcome back to Kids Continued. I'm so glad you're here to join us for another week. Now we are starting a new kind of lesson for the next couple weeks where we are going to be showing you sort of like an activity or maybe even an experiment or two that link in with our Bible lesson for today. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy it, and let's jump into today's lesson. Today's story can be found in the Gospels. It can actually be found in 3 of the books, in Matthew chapter 14, Mark chapter 6, and John chapter 6. So this was a time when Jesus was on earth, and he was traveling to different places, and he was teaching his disciples and preaching the word of God to people all over the place. So today's story starts off soon after Jesus had been preaching and he had fed the over 5,000 people with the fish and the loaves of bread. Do you remember that story? So now Jesus had gone up a mountain and he was spending some time praying with God. And he had sent his disciples and people along in their boat, and they were on the water. And a storm had come up and the water wasn't exactly that calm. So there were waves and there was some wind. And when Jesus had finished spending time with God, he saw that the disciples were quite far off in the lake. And he just said, okay, I'm going to walk and catch up with them. So Jesus started walking on the water. And that is quite amazing, because I don't know about you, but I haven't seen anyone do that. So for Jesus to walk on the water, that is amazing. Now, the disciples saw this and got quite a fright, because could you imagine seeing someone walking on the water up to you and it's nighttime and there's wind and a storm? I think it would be a little scary. And they actually thought he was a ghost. And Jesus called out and said, no, don't be afraid. It is I, Jesus. One of the disciples, Peter, said, Lord, if it is you, let me come out to you. And Jesus said, come to me. And Peter stood up in the boat and stepped over and started walking on the water towards Jesus. I mean, oh my gosh, he just had his focus and his eyes on Jesus, and that is where he was going to go to in that time. So he was walking on water just as Jesus was. Now, he got a little distracted at one point, and he started seeing the wind, and it was probably making these waves really big, and then he started doubting. And when he started doubting and he lost his focus on Jesus, he started sinking. And he called out to Jesus to save him. And Jesus reached out his hand and saved him from drowning. And Jesus said, you of little faith, why do you doubt? This story is such a reminder to us on focusing on Jesus and keeping our eyes on him and trusting in him. And he can lead us to do amazing things. But sometimes in life we get distracted and we aren't focusing on God and aren't focusing on Jesus, and things get a little crazy. We get scared of what's happening in life and the storms that are going on in our life. But we need to remember to focus on Jesus. And no matter what's going on around us, he can get us through it. He can save us. So today, as I said, we are going to be doing an object lesson. So I've got some goodies here I'm going to show you and going to tell you a bit about how it relates to our lesson today. So here we are, and I have a bowl with some water in, and my ducks are just here because they're going to see how well these things can float. And I also have some paper clips. Okay, so before we do this, just check with your parents if you have all these goodies, and they'd probably also like to see how this works. Okay, so once you have all your goodies, we are going to try and get these paper clips to float on top of the water. Okay, so we're going to try a couple different ways. See if we can get them to float in the water, kind of like a boat. Okay, and gosh, it really doesn't want to. Nope. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we are going to take one of these paper clips and we're just going to fold him open just a bit so he's at like a right angle. and it's going to be like a holder, a little helper, and we're going to see if it works this way. So take our paper clip, balance that one on top. Let's see if we can get them to float now. Oh, I'm bumping the water too much. Okay, we have to go gently. So you see these floating ones. This is kind of like Peter in our story. And when Jesus called him to step out onto the boat, he was focused on Jesus, and he stepped out and he could walk on the water. But when he was focused on the waves that were there and the storm that was around him, he lost sight of Jesus and he sank to the bottom. So you see how when the water moves a bit too much, they sink and they don't stay floating. Okay, so you guys go try this at home and see how you can get it done. So that was just a short little experiment, but hopefully it helped you to understand how things don't always work out as planned when we do it by ourselves and when we don't rely on Jesus. We need Jesus to help us and guide us and to strengthen us. And the more we know about Jesus and the more we read his word and understand what he has in store for us in our lives, the better we can live our lives and the better we can connect with the people around us and show God's love to them. Okay guys, that's all for this week. I hope you have a great week and you try this experiment and see how it works. And remember that God is always with you. He's there to protect you and to guide you, and he will be there to help you be brave when you are scared and strong when you are weak. Hope you guys have a great week. Bye.